Hi everybody! We all understand that redistributing income is a key macro objective of government. Trying to strive for income equality to some extent is really important. An important government objective, of course, yes, but an important objective for society as well. We understand the issue with absolute poverty and relative poverty if that's occurring in an economy, and we understand how we can show that using a Laffer Curve and Gini coefficient. If you're not sure, watch my video on the Gini coefficient and Laffer Curve and the issues with poverty to get your head around it. In this video I want to look at policies to reduce income inequality. I'll look at 4 key policies, the problems with them all, and then some evaluation at the end. Let's start by looking at transfer payments. Transfer payments are payments by the government to households which involve no actual production, no actual exchange of goods and services at all in order to gain this payment. So transfer payments could be unemployment benefits, could be child support benefits, could be disability benefits. These benefits all artificially increase the income of those that actually receive them, and especially those that are poor or those that are desperately in need see a rise in incomes that can help reduce income inequality in a given country. But there are major issues with giving out transfer payments. There is a huge cost involved to the government in doing this, and that will involve a large opportunity cost. In order for the government to spend money and give these benefits out, does that mean that borrowing has had to take place? Does that mean that government has had to borrow money? In which case, does that mean future tax rises? Potentially, in which case future burdens will suffer. Has it meant that the government has cut spending from other key areas in the economy that the poor desperately need? Maybe that's education services, maybe that's healthcare services, in which case that's not good for the poor either, and that can actually worsen the issue. What about another policy? Maybe the government can spend on essential goods and services that are especially useful for the poor, or goods and services that actually generate positive externalities, like education, like healthcare, which can reduce some of the issues that the poor are suffering from. Well, on the one hand that can be very useful for the poor, but a major issue is again the cost to the government, and let's dissect this opportunity cost more. Maybe the government has borrowed and that means future tax rises. In the future, does that mean regressive taxes are going to increase? Taxes like VAT, taxes like cigarette duty, alcohol duty, are these kind of taxes going to increase? Fuel duty maybe in the future, which are going to burden the poor more in the future. That's a nice evaluation point. That's a nice way to criticise, potentially, government spending to actually fund some of these policies. Let's take another policy. What about increasing tax rates for those in higher income tax bands in a progressive tax system? You should all be aware of what a progressive tax system is. So what about those that are in higher income tax bands? If their tax rates actually increase, then maybe the government can increase their tax revenue collection, and that money can be used to fund these other policies and therefore reduce income inequality. The higher tax revenue generated can be used to distribute to the poor. But that generates major issues, and we can bring in the Laffer Curve here. And the Laffer Curve is a very interesting theory, a very interesting idea that goes against using this policy. The Laffer Curve, which could be shown here, represents on the x-axis the tax rate, and on the y-axis the tax revenue collection to government. And what it shows is that there comes a point in time where if you keep increasing the tax rate beyond tau in this diagram here, eventually the tax revenue collection to the government will actually fall. Why is that? Because disincentive effects of raising taxes start to creep in here. So if this is income tax, then eventually the tax rate gets so high, well, workers are disincentivized to work really hard and to earn higher incomes. So they cut back on their production numbers, they cut back on their productivity. What about entrepreneurs? Entrepreneurs now are going to think, well, what's the point in actually in working so hard and coming up with new ideas and innovative ideas if all that's going to happen is I'm going to be taxed more if I earn more income? So it holds back entrepreneurial spirit. If it's corporation tax, not income tax, it's going to hold back firms from actually being entrepreneurial, being innovative, investing in research and development to look at future profitability increases. What's the point if more and more profits are just going to be taxed away? So it disincentivizes key entrepreneurial activity. It disincentivizes increases in productivity, knowing that most of that increase in income or profit is just going to be taxed away, and that's going to harm the economy in the long run. And it's going to reduce the amount of tax revenue collected, in which case maybe we're not going to see a huge benefit in redistribution to the poor in terms of income here. So that's a very good way to evaluate using that diagram there. Therefore, maybe take away the role of government in this sense, in terms of spending and in terms of tax. Maybe let's just use regulation instead, where the government imposes minimum wages in the economy. And of course, minimum wages in theory will increase wage rates for the general population, and therefore increase incomes, reducing the income gap in the economy. But major issue, which classical free market economists would argue against minimum wages, is the fact that minimum wages could well cause unemployment, and it could well harm those that it's trying to actually favour, that it's trying to benefit. So those that are desperately looking for a job, that maybe can't find a job because wage rates are too high, are going to suffer. Minimum wages are going to prevent them actually finding a job, so it could actually cause unemployment. By raising the cost of production for firms, firms may respond by simply sacking workers, again harming those who it's intending to actually benefit. So the unemployment problems that it can cause could well harm those it's trying to actually favour and benefit. That's a major issue with this, and it can disincentivise firms from actually hiring new workers with a higher wage rate. So the allocation of resources is going to suffer here. So overall, how can you evaluate this kind of idea, these policies to redistribute income? Well, we can question the state of government finances as to which policies are viable. If the government is in huge amounts of debt, racking up massive amounts of debt, and is racking up large budget deficits each year, then maybe some of these policies, 1 and 2, are not going to be viable. Maybe we can question the actual tax levels set. So if the government decides to increase progressive tax bands, progressive tax levels, we can question whether the Laffer Curve effect will actually reduce the overall effectiveness of this policy. We can also question the types of taxes used to actually redistribute income. So if regressive taxes go up in rate, then actually it's going to harm the poor more than it's going to benefit the poor, because regressive taxes take up more of the income of the poor than they do of the rich. So we can also question the types of taxes used as well. Okay, that's the basic essay plan for you here, a question that comes quite a lot in the exam, so hopefully you understand that now and can answer a question really well. Thanks for watching, guys. See you all next time.